hello. This is Brent with SPG. I'm currently speaking with Ashleyanne. Hello.
Hello.
So first things first, what's the name of the production that you'll be performing in?
I am in college letters.
Yeah, I've already spoken about that one. And can you tell me a little bit about the role that you'll be playing?
I am playing the role of Charlotte. We don't know her last name, so she is just Charlotte. But she is a member of a large family and she has come to college. And I get the sense that she's really trying to maybe step out of her family shadows, do better for herself because not a lot has happened for her family. And she was popular in high school and she's enjoying the college life.
Do you think that this role fits you as an actual person, as you in real life?
I did go to university. I went to the University of Guelph and I did enjoy my time there. That's where I met my husband. I have my oldest and closest friend from there. So I have very good memories of that time. I don't think the sense that I've got from Charlotte in terms of her backstory, we are not alike because I wasn't the cheerleader in high school. I was the hockey player and I enjoyed theater. So, not quite the same. I don't think we would have run in the same circles, if you will.
Do you think it's challenging to play a role that is different from yourself?
It'll be it'll be interesting because even though she is meant to be perceived as this, the script does very clearly indicate at the beginning that we are not intended to be stereotypical. And even through the first run through, Charlotte does not live this ideal life. She is, in fact, in the middle of the play. She suffers a great loss in her life. And so she and I have to take that journey of hardship and come out the other side of it. And I have faced hardship in my life, so I have a good idea of how I want to play it.
So there's going to be a few layers to this.
Yes.
One thing that this just sprung to my mind, I'm very curious though. So it's a one-act play. And one of the directors was telling me a one-act play is basically a lot of things condensed because you've got to get this all done in one act. Uh, How how do you feel this play does in portraying these characters and displaying these layers, showing these layers in only one act? Can you tell me a little bit about that?
When we went did our run through, we did it as a group, so we've heard all three stories. And when I auditioned, I actually did a cold read for all three uh, stories as well. So when I heard them all, it was interesting to hear the complexity of each story. When I first read the monologue that I delivered as a cold read, I was like, "Oh, this seems very like silly, and I'm not really sure what the whole story will be here." But each story, it's very much like peeling the onion. Like, we all learned that from Shrek, that ogres are like onions, and all of these are like onions, and it comes out in our mannerisms as our characters. It'll come out in it's all in the sentiment of the line. Like, there at one point I'm realizing this loss, plus there's a huge obstacle in my way. And very much like real life, there are people in our lives that touch us, and often there are people that we don't expect to help us along our way. And that's exactly what happens here. And in fact, in all three shows, they all have this impactful person to another that you weren't anticipating. They all take you for a spin, and all the characters come together really nicely.
That sounds really interesting. Take it for a spin. Do you think, without spoiling anything, do you think there are any surprises in store for the audience?
They will be surprised in all three stories. Absolutely.
Care to share?
Well, I don't want to say anything about the other two shows. In ours, I'm one of two people, so I play opposite Jess, and she plays the character of Elvira, and we've put each other in a box, and we think that that's where we belong, and both of us are going to surprise each other. And Elvira seems like this really tough outer shell, I guess is the way to say it.
Mm-hmm.
And she ends up having a heart of gold, and she ends up helping me out so I can go home and visit my family. I won't say why she goes home to visit her family, but Charlotte is very much of the mind that she won't be able to, and it is Elvira that comes to her rescue.
Okay, I won't probe into that. Just had to ask. How much theater experience do you have?
Good question. I discovered theater when I was in high school, and it just seemed really cool because my school was doing Pinocchio, and I'm like, I know this story. I'm like, how does this all go together? And there was going to be dancing. I'm like, there wasn't that much dancing in Pinocchio. And then I got to do Godspell. I was a stage manager in Godspell in high school, and that's when I absolutely fell in love with everything that had to do with theater. This is, in fact, my first role on the stage. So I've never stepped out from behind the curtain. I took a long year of hiatus of being involved with any theater, but I am a very expressive person, and I have my own, story to tell, in the sense that I can pull from my own story to help me understand the characters and be able to do the story that we're trying to tell, do it justice. I'm hoping anyways.
Now, when I hear that someone's a first timer, like, now I just want to ask you question after question after question. It's really interesting diving deep into that, especially for people who may want to do something like this but just can't get around to it. First, let's start with something simple. Are you enjoying it so far?
Yes, we're on a tight deadline, but we have a lot of people who have done this before or are comfortable with the world of theater, like understanding the demand of what is being asked. Like, just because I haven't been on stage, it doesn't mean that I don't know the timeline. I've been involved in Tech Week. I've been involved in getting off book and memorizing lines. It was never because I was going to go and deliver them. My son, actually, he's 11 years old. He was in Rudolph with Sudbury Performance Group. So that was kind of one of the reasons why I've jumped back into it. I have watched countless hours of theater, mostly musical theater, but I do enjoy plays as well. And it's going to be lots of fun.
Sure, it will be. It is. Um, uh, geez, are there any influences you're taking for this role, or are you trying to make this all your own?
Definitely not all my own. On first glance, it reminds me a little bit of Elphaba and Glinda from Wicked because they are very polar opposites, and that is very true in these two college students. They are opposites, but just because you're opposites, it doesn't mean that you don't cross paths. So that kind of reminds me a little bit of this. I'm not really pulling anything from that except for just just knowing that like this story works and trusting that it's a it's a give and take in those types of relationships, and they are successful when being told.
Final question. To anybody who may not be a first timer, but deep down inside wants to be a first timer, may want to do something like this, but just can't find the, you know, can't find the time or can't find the, let's say, courage to go through with it. What would you tell these people? How would you encourage them?
I mean, Mark tells us before every show that there are hundreds of different ways, maybe not hundreds, but there's dozens of different ways of being involved in theater. I've I ended up jumping right into the thick of things when it came to Rudolph, and I was on mic backstage helping to move set pieces around. I managed a table of props for the actors. I was keeping kids quiet backstage, resetting every show. My son was on stage obviously, but I've personally also helped with dinner theater, so serving meals, bussing tables, cleaning up, tearing down sets. There are wonderful ways to participate, even if it's not getting up on the stage and delivering the lines. If you enjoy tech, you can do sound or lights. You can be involved. There's a place for everybody in theater, and that's what's wonderful about it, really.
Yeah, it's more than just performing. Definitely a way of honing other
Yeah.
skills that you may wish to hone. Well, I've got to cut this. I've got another interview right after. So it's been a pleasure chatting with you.
You too. Thanks very much for having me.
You take care, okay?
You too. Bye now.